We're at the University of Calgary for the second biennial meeting of the Pan-American Society for Evolutionary Developmental Biology. I'm Molly, I'm a graduate student in the Kramer Lab at Harvard University and the creator and host of Science in Real Life on YouTube. And I'm here with Dominique Bergman, who is a professor at Stanford University.
Hi, Molly.
Hey, how's it going?
Very good.
What advice would you have for students first starting out in Evo-Devo?
So I'd say it's a fantastic community. So we're at this meeting, and it's actually the first Evo-Devo meeting that I've been to. And what's great is that we have a group of people working on so many different things, and everyone's excited about differences. So sometimes you go to meetings, and when everyone's got a lot of information about one thing, and they're not so excited about hearing about other things. And here it's completely the opposite. So I learned about snakes this morning, and skulls, and seal. It's just so it's a great community, and then I'd also say if you have a little bit of interest, dive in, because as I mentioned, I did not start in this field at all, but got interested over time in knowing a little bit about the system that I was working on and saying, well, if that's so important, it's got to be important in many different systems. And it's not actually that hard to switch systems. That's one of the things people are afraid of.
Yeah.
Where I actually did a PhD working in nematodes, and now I work with plants, and people are like, oh, that's so scary. And, no, actually, it's not. You're not.
Right.
They have DNA.
Well, certainly Evo-Devo is a field that covers a lot of breadth. And so I would say start with something that you're very passionate about, because you're always, this is true for any graduate student, but you're always going to have those days when you're like, why am I doing this? Nothing is working, right? And so you have to have something, there's got to be a question that just makes you want to get out of bed and then keeps you up at night, right? And so start with those, find that system that allows you to ask really interesting questions. And then talk to a lot of people that have the resources, in the talent, the time, the skill set, the techniques to enable you to expand your project, because you're really going to need to become versatile in a lot of different systems. And I think that's a lot of different areas. So I think that's really important too, is to think about who you want to be and where you want to be grounded, but then also think about the ways that you want to collaborate with others and build your networks to expand on your own personal interests and abilities.
Well, Evo-Devo is a super integrative field, so it requires you to be a bit of a jack of all trades.
Yes.
So for whatever system you choose to work on, whatever system is your passion, I think I would recommend that you always seek out mentorship for any particular question. The mentorship's probably not always going to be right in your lab. Your PI is not going to have all the answers. So you may need to seek out morphological advice on characterizing morphology from an expert in morphology, and you may need to seek out expertise in doing a protein immunohistochemistry experiment from somebody else that's outside your lab. So don't be afraid to ask for that help. Go out and seek mentors in many different areas of research.
To really find something that fascinates you as a researcher, because it's something that you're going to spend a lot of time working on and thinking about, and to really take ownership of a project is something that's critical, I think, for success really in any field of science, but in evolutionary developmental biology, I would say in particular, because you're often working on something a little bit weird, off the beaten track, and it really takes ownership to make that project work. And I would say another little piece of advice that I would offer, and something that I offer to my own students, is to practice communicating, as you are doing, as often as you possibly can. Because I think communication in science is really key to your own success and really thinking about your own project in big picture terms. So being able to give as many talks as you can and communicate to the public is critical for your own success, and also in disseminating your work to other people.
Couldn't agree more. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, thank you.
I would say just follow your passion and your interest, and don't be, set on a particular organism or a particular field. Really try to look outside the box and then draw upon everything that is available with collaborators or by your own.
So I would say to think broadly and to expose yourself broadly, to go to talks in lots of different areas, to try and go to different meetings, to try and read broadly, because the field just requires incorporating so many different skills and areas, and I think it's hard to find a graduate program or an undergraduate program where you're going to get a ton of training, and so you have to really take it upon yourself to advocate and put the pieces together.
So the advice would be to figure out the question that motivates them, and I consider Evo-Devo to be a very broad field, and it can be What interests you? Is it evolvability and constraints? Is it trade-offs? Is it very mechanistic basis from a genetic and cellular perspective? And once you've narrowed down on a question, the model organism will probably emerge as a function of what you can and can't do experimentally.
I would say don't be scared, because I feel like a lot of people who get into Evo-Devo, especially if you're working in a new animal system, there may not be a very big community in the field that you're working in, and you may start to doubt whether the questions you're asking are interesting to enough people because nobody else is doing it. But if you're interested, and when you can express that passion to other people, you see their interest. Don't worry about the politics of science. Don't worry about funding. If you're doing what you love and other people see the importance of what you're doing, and the rest will work itself out.
The advice that I would give is oftentimes, and in a lot of fields, you're worried about the lack of elbow room. You know, I did some training as a developmental biologist in a zebrafish lab, and you quickly realize how crowded that field is. And so one of the things I would stress is that it's the tip of the iceberg, right? When you scratch the surface, you come to a meeting like this, and there's just still so much new and so many things that are yet to be discovered. So we know the things that we know we're getting deeper into, and there's still just so much more out there to find out. And because of technology and conceptual and technological innovations, it's just opening up whole new fields of study and whole new realms of life that haven't been accessible before. So it's a pretty cool time, and just to go with your passion and go with what you love.
So I would say read. Don't worry about it if you don't understand it, just read widely. Don't read just in a particular area, because the key is, you make connections between the fields. You read in paleontology, you read in developmental genetics, you read in morphometrics. And now, as it's becoming possible to manipulate more and more systems and becoming model systems, you can really start to integrate history and historical questions, and now with modern tools, you start to really ask questions that have eluded people for many, many years.
So I always tell students to do what they really enjoy. I think it's really true that if you're doing stuff that you love, it'll always be exciting and it'll always be fun for you. And so I've had students say to me, I really love barnacles, but I can't make a living studying barnacles.
Darwin
I'm like,
did, right?
Yes, you can. And I say, yes, I know. I have students that do. I'm like, oh no, of course you can. I know 3 people that make their living studying barnacles, so you can do it.
Yeah.
And so it's that allowing people to think freely about what sort of things they might